So in terms of working together at the global level, we of course discussed coordination. And in that, we discussed a lot about communication and information management. We thought about the idea of having a web-based platform where different people, groups, or even local NGOs could input data, but not garbage, so there would need to be some rules in there, which would allow some sort of real-time identification of needs. And then what we saw was that actually a bunch of local groups had started these kind of initiatives. So for instance, in Italy, there was this Terremoto Centro Italia, which regrouped all the information and that allowed different organizations to coordinate. There was also another good example in Somalia, linked to a system of feedback mechanism for different complaints linked to cash transfers. Now, of course, it might be interesting for the UN agencies to, let's say, promote this bottom-up approach and kind of outsource these information sourcing. But there's a need to be able to verify the information that's on there, and therefore need for somebody external to also be able to understand the analysis and check it. We also discussed the problem of UN agencies not liking to be coordinated, essentially because they have different funding mechanisms and they try to maximize their own funding as much as they can. What we said here is that in terms of the negative feedback mechanism, the emergency coordinator at a global level for all these agencies would have the, let's say, the ability or the right to denounce people who don't follow the rules to the Secretary General, so that they can be some sort of negative feedback afterwards on that. On the let's say, positive feedback mechanism, we thought that capacity building and the definition, a clear definition of each agency's different roles would be very important. We discussed also on the prevention and risk reduction side the concept of, let's say, having a plan, or let's say a cross-cutting plan, or let's say the need to organize things at a global level, but also more at a regional and intergovernmental level. But also to have, of course, local response plans so that the local NGOs who have the proximity with the actually there on the ground can intervene. But let's say kind of coordination mechanism that would be cross-cutting over to global, regional, governmental, and local. In a more, let's say, large sense, we discussed how to deal with the diverging points of views of grassroots movements and, let's say, more formal organizations, and how to avoid the duplications of effort on this side. And we said that the important thing was to recognize each individual organization's role, because grassroots movements have very important roles in what they do. But then sometimes you might need to bring in specialists from other organizations to complement the work that is being done on the ground. I think that was more or less it. Do you have any other points to add? Okay, thanks.
Excellent.